The story opens as a maid, Ilsa, humbly introduces herself, bowing before the plump, bedridden man, declaring her duty to serve him, His Highness, Prince Ludwig. He stares at her, visibly confused, slowly realizing the horrifying truth. He is reincarnated as the protagonist of Revolt of the Ugly Orc, a degenerate eroge he used to play. In this grim RPG, the ugly crown prince, Ludwig von Balderberg, leads a brutal campaign, subjugating royal heirs, female warriors, and even elf maidens. Ilsa nervously awaits his response, but he's consumed by dread. The game is infamous for its despair-filled endings. Even the true route ends in execution after raising kingdoms. The others offer only rebellion, defeat, or suicide. Overwhelmed, he hides his face in his hands, realizing one brutal fact: the survival rate is absolute zero. He also remembers that Ilsa is one of the main heroines, Ilsa Hildebrandt, the tragic daughter of a fallen viscount, who in the game was eventually turned into Ludwig's slave. Now seeing her for the first time, he's shocked, realizing this is their first meeting. Struggling to stay calm, he asks her for the current date and time. Ilsa politely informs him it's March 17th, year 270 of the imperial calendar. That stuns him even more. This is 5 years before the main story even begins. In the original game, Ilsa was already enslaved during the tutorial scene right at the start. Now realizing he has 5 extra years, he becomes quietly excited. He can try to change the story's tragic outcome. When she humbly asks if he has any orders for her, he nervously declines and instead praises her for her dedication. Ilsa, surprised yet pleased, blushes at how kindly the crown prince is speaking to her. Having never talked to a cute girl in his previous life, he's overwhelmed with anxiety. When Ilsa politely reminds him that she's his maid and asks him to assign her a task, he instead asks her to leave him alone for now. Confused, she wonders if she did something wrong. Flustered, he quickly reassures her, explaining that he's simply grateful someone as kind as her is serving someone as undeserving as him. Ilsa softly apologizes for the misunderstanding and calmly exits the room. He sadly recalls the day when Princess Sophia Marie de Belva, his fiancée since age 13 and a princess from a neighboring kingdom, angrily rejected his marriage proposal, calling him a hideous monster and declaring that she hated him. Her selfish and cruel remarks deeply wounded him, as he had always been a shy and quiet boy. Worse, she spread rumors claiming Ludwig had inherited his father's cruel and depraved nature. As a result, her father canceled the engagement. When Ludwig learned of the rumors, he was devastated and locked himself away in his room. To comfort him, the emperor gifted him Ilsa, not as a person, but as a toy to vent on. Whenever Ludwig got angry, he was allowed to break her however he pleased. Now remembering this, he realizes that in his previous life, he had felt sympathy for Ludwig's situation, having never been bullied or rejected himself through elementary, middle, high school, or even university. He had never even spoken to a girl. But now, determined not to repeat the same darkness, he vows never to touch Ilsa, hoping this one change might lead to a better future. However, he also recalls another serious obstacle. The Empire's relentless push for war wasn't just Ludwig's doing, it was the Emperor's ambition. Even if Ludwig wanted peace, the Emperor would still drive the invasion forward. So he considers removing the Emperor, hoping it might be the key to rewriting the story's tragic course. But as he lies down in despair, he knows the harsh truth. If the Emperor, Ludwig's strongest backer, disappears, the noble factions will likely kill him immediately. Lying helplessly, not knowing what to do next, he catches a glimpse of his bloated, unattractive face in the mirror. It strikes him then, the first step is to lose weight. After all, he is the son of a strong and handsome emperor. If he becomes more presentable, maybe the heroines won't hate him, and he can steer away from the bad endings. Inspired by this single, realistic goal, he finds a small spark of hope. Get fit, and start changing the fate he once thought was unchangeable. The next day, Emperor Otto von Balderberg, holding a girl in each arm, asks Ludwig casually whether he didn't like that girl, as he recalls the Emperor's nature. Harsh tyrant, just like in the game, who only shows affection toward his son. He quickly denies it, admitting instead that he actually likes Ilsa. He remembers that she comes from a fallen noble family, and to restore their status, her parents accepted the Emperor's command for her to serve Ludwig as his toy. But now he realizes, if Ilsa ever finds out he dislikes her, it might completely shatter her dedication and resolve. Meanwhile, the Emperor proudly advises him not to get too attached to her, reminding him there are many other girls for him. Then, noticing a certain spark in Ludwig's expression, the emperor taps his head and angrily shouts about the kingdom of Belga and all the other nations that wronged him. The emperor promises that they will all suffer under his iron wrath, and that Ludwig too will one day take his revenge. With a laugh, he walks off with the girls. Meanwhile, Ludwig silently enters his room, smiling to himself, thinking how the emperor still believes he is truly his son, when in reality, he's not the real Ludwig at all. But suddenly, he clutches his head and bends down, wincing in pain as if his heart is being torn apart. At that exact moment, Ilsa rushes in with clear concern and quickly asks if he's all right. A few minutes later, he's lying on his bed, and she's sitting beside him with teary eyes, visibly relieved as he regains consciousness. Confused by her deep concern, he asks why she's so worried about him. She calmly responds that he is her true master. Realizing she's just like the loyal dog from the game, he smiles and assures her that he's fine, sincerely thanking her. In response, she surprises him by admitting that he seems completely different from the rumors she had heard. After feeling a bit better, he gently allows her to step away. She humbly bows and replies that if he cannot rest properly in her presence, then she will excuse herself. As she leaves the room, he immediately looks up with determination to start doing squats. But the moment he tries, due to his heavy weight, he collapses to the ground like a deflated football. The next morning, Ilsa serves him an enormous fatty and delicious breakfast. When he gently instructs her to serve only vegetables and smaller portions from tomorrow onward, she looks at him with deep concern, asking if he's feeling unwell. He calmly reassures her that he's fine, he just wants to lose some weight, which visibly shocks her. She repeats in disbelief, asking if he truly wants to slim down, and when he nods seriously, he then asks about her plans after breakfast. She hesitates for a moment, a little flustered, before asking for a bit of time. Realizing that she's carefully managing her response to avoid offending him, he clarifies that he actually wants her help with his weight loss training. Ilsa immediately agrees, clearly happy and excited. Meanwhile, he quietly thinks to himself, having never had a relationship with a girl in his previous life, that he doesn't have the courage to ask someone as beautiful as Ilsa for anything romantic. But his thoughts are interrupted when Ilsa, looking confused, gently asks why he's requesting her help, since as a prince and knight commander, it would make more sense for him to ask someone more professional. However, he knows well that she is highly skilled. Her family, the House of Hildebrandt, is a shadow clan known for assassination and covert missions. Among the heroines, Ilsa stands out for her incredible speed and specializes in fast, multi-hit attacks, playing the role of a scout. So without hesitation, he lowers his head and sincerely asks her for help, because he truly wants to change himself. With a sad and discouraged look, he explains that even though he is a crown prince, Princess Sophia of the neighboring kingdom rejected him. No one pays attention to him, and he desperately wants to prove himself, especially to her. Understanding his true intentions, Ilsa becomes deeply moved and humbly bows, promising to help him with her full effort, no matter the cost. He stands up with renewed excitement, firmly declaring that he will follow all of her instructions, as he truly trusts her. She reassures him again and agrees to begin his training. However, when he thanks her by calling her name, she responds firmly and professionally, instructing him to address her as instructor, and to reply only with yes ma'am or a nod. Seeing his confused but willing agreement, she cheerfully leads him toward their first training location. Now standing together before a high balcony, she apologetically explains that the kind of deep fat he's carrying cannot be eliminated through normal exercise or dieting alone. It must either be cut away or compressed. She adds that this body modification technique has been passed down through her family. Still shocked, he hesitates, but she confidently urges him to just follow her guidance. Feeling determined and motivated to lose weight, he agrees to trust all of her methods. As he climbs up to the balcony, she suddenly tells him to jump off. He stares at her in disbelief. Without giving him time to think, she abruptly pushes him down. He screams in panic as he falls, but upon landing, he realizes he's completely unharmed. His thick body fat had absorbed the impact, and he lets out a sigh of relief. At that moment, she approaches with a smile, and after confirming he isn't injured, excitedly tells him to climb back up and do it again. When he cries out in disbelief, she reminds him, in a professional tone, that he promised to follow every instruction without question. With no other choice, he climbs back up and jumps again, repeating the process. Later, back in his room, he lies exhausted as she gives him a massage. Realizing she must be tired herself, he tells her she doesn't need to keep going, but she calmly informs him that proper body care is also an essential part of training. He feels nervous at how close she is. Then, with a hint of emotion, she asks if he's uncomfortable with her touch, reassuring him that she's only performing a duty assigned to her. He gently brushes off her concern, saying that romantic relationships should exist only between people in love, so she shouldn't worry about this. He thanks her and calls her instructor. Smiling warmly, she tells him there's no need to call her that anymore, since they're not in training at the moment. He can just use her name. Happy, he tells her to work him just as hard tomorrow. She nods with a cheerful smile. After 6 months, Ilsa excitedly praises his slightly slimmed-down figure. However, he responds dejectedly, saying that despite all their training, he hasn't lost much weight at all. With a cheerful smile, she explains that their methods are focused on compressing fat into a denser form rather than just burning it off. To further compress his body fat, she instructs him to now climb up to the 3rd-floor balcony. As he scales the building, he's amazed at how easily she moves across the house. Ilsa, still ahead of him, laughs and admits she has no real experience in this either. But reaching the balcony before him, she assures him he actually has more talent than she does. Without wasting a moment, she informs him about the next stage of training, then suddenly pushes him off the balcony again. Their training continues relentlessly. Then, a few months later in the depths of winter, he becomes nervous when she instructs him to defeat a sea monster known as a kelpie. It's a minor enemy from the early side quests in the game, but one that, if left undefeated, causes the heroines to suffer humiliating outcomes. Seeing his terrified expression, Ilsa suddenly appears behind him with a teasing grin, joking that if he ends up getting caught, only his dignity will be at stake. Before he can react, she pushes him into the water and firmly instructs him not to float on the surface. Otherwise, he'll be caught easily. She commands him to dodge swiftly. Although he has no clue what he's doing, the moment he sees the kelpie behind him, he instinctively dives to the other side of the water while Ilsa continues cheering him on from the shore. He does his best, but eventually gets caught. The kelpie starts licking his face, bringing him to tears. Once it's over and he climbs out of the water, Ilsa offers him a helping hand and praises his effort. But just then, an accident occurs, causing her to turn bright red with embarrassment and quickly shut her eyes. As the days pass, his weight begins to drop little by little. Now training with dual swords, he stays focused and determined. Watching from nearby, Ilsa, concerned, suggests that a sword and shield combination might suit him better. He bows his head apologetically and explains, with quiet sincerity, that although he has access to many weapons, he believes dual swords are the best choice for defeating monsters because he wants to become the strongest. Ilsa notices that his goal has clearly changed from what it once was, but she genuinely feels happy for him. Then, with a firm tone, she tells him that if he truly wants to master dual swords, he'll need to train 3 times harder. From that moment on, he throws himself into intense training, leaping from 5th-floor balconies, dodging kelpie attacks, and refining his dual sword technique. A year later, he's thrilled by the results. His body is finally in ideal shape. Ilsa, just as excited, praises his transformation with joy. But then, her voice softens with a hint of sadness as she declares that her duty as his instructor to help him slim down is now complete. Startled, he quickly responds, insisting that he still hasn't mastered dual sword combat completely. After completing his training, Ludwig initially planned to distance himself from Ilsa. But after spending an entire year with her, he feels emotionally attached and asks her to keep guiding him. When she asks if he truly wants that, he smiles and suggests they'd be a bit more casual now since they've spent a whole year as teacher and student. He asks her to call him Lua, musing that his name in his past life was Rue Nakadu. Understanding his feelings, she gently holds his hand and politely says she'll call him Prince Ludwig. He smiles, accepting it, and she promises to serve him with all her heart. A few days later, during his farewell party, Ludwig shows up dressed elegantly. Everyone is shocked and captivated by his transformation. Still, he doubts their admiration, thinking they might only pretend to like his new appearance. Wanting to avoid attention, he quietly hides away. Ilsa approaches and asks why he's standing there alone. This party is for him. She urges him not to glare at everyone so coldly, since people already find him intimidating. Just then, the emperor arrives with a wine glass in one hand and 2 girls at his side. He praises Ludwig's transformation and changed demeanor. Ludwig thanks him. The emperor says, though he'll miss him, Ludwig must now attend the Royal Academy, which accepts nobles and royals from many nations. He urges him to become famous and make others bow to him. Then turning to Ilsa, the emperor proudly asks her to take care of Ludwig. She agrees respectfully. As the emperor walks away, Ludwig apologizes for his father's rude behavior. Ilsa calmly dismisses it, saying serving him is her only duty. Trying to change the subject, Ludwig asks if she'll come to the academy with him. Ilsa happily agrees, promising to support him as his maid and classmate. Ludwig then thinks to himself that having a maid is fine, but since she's 2 years older, calling her a classmate might raise questions. On the day of the entrance ceremony, Ludwig changes into an elegant outfit. Looking at himself in the mirror, he feels impressed and humbled. Just a year ago, he never imagined he'd appear this stunning or confident. He recalls how his father had explained that the Imperial Academy accepts nobles and royals from across many nations. Ludwig thinks to himself that Sophia surely wouldn't show up here. After rejecting him and damaging diplomatic ties, she wouldn't be shameless enough to join the same academy. His thoughts are interrupted when Ilsa calls out to him. As he turns and sees her in a breathtaking dress, he's momentarily stunned. When she walks closer and asks if he's all right, he quickly regains composure and compliments her, saying she looks amazing. A few minutes later, as they ride together in the royal carriage, she asks about the speech he'll be giving as the student representative. With a smile, he confidently says it's ready, but deep down, he's nervous about speaking in front of so many people. Ilsa encourages him to be confident as a prince, and her words give him strength. Determined to avoid the game's bad ending, he promises her he'll do his best. Her bright smile shows she's happy to hear that. As they arrive at the Imperial Academy, the guards salute them. Stepping out of the carriage, Ludwig turns back and extends a hand to help Ilsa down. She hesitates, clearly puzzled, and tells him not to, people might not like it. He winks and says she should relax. He's used to being mocked as a hideous orc anyway. But as he walks, noticing people staring at him, and Ilsa makes him nervous again. He worries that onlookers are judging the strange sight of a hideous orc walking beside a beautiful girl. Flustered, he quickly turns back, grabs her hand, and enthusiastically urges her to hurry into the entrance ceremony with him. But just then, he unintentionally bumps into a girl. He falls to the ground and quickly asks the girl if she's okay. But as she turns around, he freezes in shock. It's Sophie. Remembering how harshly she rejected him before, he's stunned to see her here, especially when the academy is supposed to accept only nobles. He wonders why she's attending after causing diplomatic tension. Still trying to stay composed, he politely asks again if she's all right. She nods and then gently asks if she may hold his hand. He offers it, and she thanks him calmly as she stands. This polite response feels completely different from how cold she was in the past. Without a word, Ludwig suddenly grabs Ilsa's hand and walks away, apologizing, saying they're in a hurry. As they hurry off, Ilsa angrily asks about the girl. He tells her to calm down and then smirks, saying that Sophia didn't even recognize him as Prince Ludwig, proof his transformation is real. He recalls the pain of her rejection and grows quiet. Seeing tears form in his eyes, Ilsa gently pulls him into a hug, encouraging him to let it out. Overwhelmed, he starts crying heavily. When he notices she's also tearing up, he smiles through his tears and tells her not to cry for him. She softly smiles and insists she isn't crying at all. Later at the ceremony, the emperor finishes his speech by wishing all students success. The announcer then introduces the next speaker, Eleonora, daughter of the empire's most powerful duke. With a cold, commanding tone, Eleonora congratulates the new students. Ludwig recognizes her immediately. She's one of the main heroines in the game. He thinks carefully. If he doesn't handle her well, she'll lead a coup mid-story, and if he tries to control her as a slave, it'll trigger the rebellion ending. He knows he must approach her wisely. His thoughts are cut off as her speech ends and his own name is called. Ilsa encourages him as he stands up. Nervous but determined, Ludwig walks toward the stage, feeling everyone's eyes on him. Standing before the crowd with calm resolve, he addresses the crowd, revealing the isolation and prejudice he has endured even within his own empire. His voice, though initially tense, grows stronger as he expresses his desire to be seen for who he truly is. Not the monster imagined, but the person standing before them now. As he finishes and walks back to his seat, the atmosphere remains cold. The stares haven't softened, but something inside him has. Rather than feeling discouraged, he silently vows to shift those gazes through his own actions and reshape the narrative others have written for him. As Ludwig returns to his seat, Ilsa claps excitedly, impressed by his heartfelt speech. Though he laughs, knowing most ignored him, her teasing remark about everyone having rotten ears brings a soft smile to his face. He responds lightheartedly, still holding hope that one day people will come to understand him. But their moment is cut short when they notice the other students rushing toward their classrooms. Panicked, they sprint after them. On the way, Ludwig is suddenly bumped aside by someone shouting for him to move. Irritated, he turns, only for a girl to step forward with a sinister smile, explaining it was her knight's fault. Ludwig freezes as he recognizes her, Natalia Silvestri, saint of the Minerva Holy Church from the neighboring Lathia Holy Kingdom, one of the main heroines in the game Revolt of the Ugly Orc. He recalls her future betrayal, where she destroys the kingdom of Belga and falsely blames the Empire, sparking global conflict. Despite knowing her treacherous role, he can't deny her enchanting appearance, silver hair, soft features, and graceful charm. Natalia introduces herself with warmth and friendliness. Ludwig politely returns the gesture, introducing himself as Crown Prince Ludwig. Her comment that he seems completely different from the rumors unsettles him, and when she suddenly hugs him, he stiffens. Though wary, he's momentarily stunned by her beauty. The moment breaks when Ilsa, fuming, pulls them apart, while Natalia throws a playful flying kiss before leaving with a cheeky excuse. Watching his flustered expression, Ilsa sharply asks if he likes Natalia. Ludwig immediately denies it, panicking at the idea. Deep down, he reminds himself that Natalia might abandon her saint title and lean toward a seductress role, just like in the game. He declares firmly that he's not interested in Natalia, only in Ilsa. The scene shifts to the classroom. Their homeroom teacher, Matilda Naumann, introduces herself. With her military posture and stern presence, Ludwig instantly recalls her as a minor soldier character in the game. Relaxed that Sophie isn't in his class, he's puzzled to see Natalia waving at him cheerfully. Ilsa, Laring, asks for permission to handle Natalia herself, but Ludwig quickly stops her before she causes a scene. His mind shifts to the last of the main heroines, Ophelia of Brynn, the fourth princess, and the feared, frenzied Night Princess. Known in the game for her incredible attack power, second only to the final boss, she plays a vital role in mid-to-late game strategies. Though wary of her, Ludwig reminds himself that this is now reality, not a game, and decides not to involve himself with her storyline just yet. As the lecture ends, the teacher instructs everyone to rest in the dormitories. On their way out, Ludwig apologizes to Ilsa for the trouble she faces because of him. With her usual smile, she brushes it off, reaffirming it as her duty. Watching her kindness, Ludwig internally vows to rewrite the game's bad ending and fully restore her lost honor. Grateful and happy, he promises to make her smile, and the sincerity in his words makes Ilsa blush, softly thanking him. Just then, a guard respectfully approaches with an invitation from Lady Eleonora for the Freshman Welcome Ball, a traditional event for royalty at the Imperial Academy. Knowing Eleonora is a potential threat seeking to take power from the Empire, Ludwig senses the true purpose of the gathering and chooses to attend with caution. Worried, he admits to Ilsa that he doesn't know how to dance. Smiling, she takes the card from his hand and assures him not to worry. She will dance with him. When he hesitantly asks if she won't dance with anyone else, she firmly declares she would much rather share that moment with him. Relieved and grateful, Ludwig thanks her, a genuine warmth filling his heart. Ludwig and Ilsa step into the ballroom, dressed in graceful elegance. Their refined appearance quickly draws attention. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Despite Ilsa's reassuring presence, Ludwig feels his confidence falter. Surrounded by nobles, he begins to question whether he belongs here. Even Ilsa, though close to his age, carries herself with the poise of someone far more mature. Feeling disheartened, he quietly admits to Ilsa that perhaps he shouldn't have come. Ilsa, puzzled, immediately dismisses the thought, reminding him gently that the party wouldn't exist without him. Her words stir a warmth in him, briefly lifting his spirits, until the music fades and Lady Eleonora steps forward, welcoming everyone with a poised smile and inviting them to enjoy the evening. As the crowd mingles but refrains from dancing, Ludwig grows confused. Ilsa explains softly that everyone is waiting for him, the prince, to lead the first dance. She also warns that Professor Naumann and several academy faculty members are watching closely, expecting him to fulfill his role. Flustered, Ludwig hesitantly asks Ilsa to dance, and she gladly accepts. As they step onto the floor, he can't help but worry whether he's doing it right. Ilsa, full of joy, gently reassures him. When he focuses too much on his footwork, she playfully tells him to look into her eyes instead, reminding him that it's proper etiquette. Though nervous that eye contact might make him mess up, she simply laughs and urges him to trust her. As he gazes into her eyes, Ludwig feels a pang of guilt. Such closeness, such warmth, is meant only for lovers. A sudden sense of unworthiness creeps over him. Wanting to pull away before crossing a line, he softly suggests they stop and reminds her there will be other chances to dance. Ilsa, smiling and understanding, agrees. Thirsty and overwhelmed, Ludwig excuses himself to get a drink and gather his thoughts. But just as he begins to relax, his mood shatters. Sophie approaches with a smile and asks why he didn't invite her to dance. The sight of her stirs a storm inside him. He recalls how she once rejected him cruelly, labeling him a hideous orc and spreading vicious rumors that tarnished not just his name, but the Empire's reputation in foreign courts. And now, without shame, she casually invites him to dance as if none of that ever happened. He wants to speak up, to confront her, but something inside, perhaps the trauma left by the real Ludwig's experiences, holds him back. Before he can react, Sophie reaches for his hand. But she's stopped. Ilsa steps forward, gripping Sophie's hand firmly. Her tone is sharp, her words clear. Tonight, Prince Ludwig dances only with her. Sophie, unfazed, mockingly questions if Ilsa is just an attendant. But Ilsa, holding Ludwig's hand protectively, stands tall, introducing herself not as a servant, but as someone who shields him with pride. She doesn't bow. She doesn't flinch, anger burning beneath her composed expression. She makes it clear she won't let anyone belittle him again. Sophie continues her taunting with a cold smile, pointing out that Ludwig is royalty while Ilsa is merely a maid, someone who has no right to share a dance with a prince. Her words sting with condescension. She escalates, feigning sorrow as she claims to be the true victim, hurt by the cruel slander surrounding Prince Ludwig, when all she did, she insists, was express a different opinion to prevent an unsuitable engagement. Then, her tone sharpens. She mocks Ilsa again, calling her personality dull, a girl from a declining noble house clinging to relevance. According to Sophie, Ilsa is nothing more than a temporary toy for the prince, a placeholder until someone of true worth takes her place. But before she can say anything crueler, a glass of wine crashes against her face. Gasps echo through the hall as the liquid drips from Sophie's stunned expression. Ludwig, furious, stands with his hands still outstretched, his voice raised in raw anger. He reminds everyone, especially her, that 2 years ago, she herself rejected him and publicly mocked him as a hideous orc. And now, after all that, she dares to insult Ilsa, someone who stayed by his side, even when no one else would. Before the silence settles, Eleonora steps forward with practiced grace, her voice calm but firm. She suggests they stop causing a scene. With a hint of amusement in her tone, she notes that the crown prince has just doused a princess with wine and raised his voice at her. She chides him for not properly disciplining his subordinates, subtly pointing out that even a mere maid like Ilsa dared to defy Princess Sophia. President Eleonora lowers her head, recalling the speech Ludwig gave during the entrance ceremony, the one where he declared he wanted everyone to see his true self. Now watching the scene unfold, she realizes this is his true self, not some polished, restrained noble, but someone who refuses to stay silent when someone dear to him is hurt. Still burning with fury, Ludwig speaks out again. His voice cuts through the stunned crowd as he declares he's never been the type to stay silent when someone he treasures is insulted. Beside him, Ilsa blushes deeply, her heart swelling with emotion, both flustered and moved. She looks up at him, eyes shining. But inside, Ludwig is conflicted. Though he stood up for her, guilt lingers for not protecting Ilsa sooner. His earlier hopes of avoiding the game's bad endings now feel painfully fragile. With conviction in his eyes, Ludwig takes Ilsa's hand and announces that if his honest self is unwelcome in this place, if people here would rather hide behind their titles while looking down on others, then he refuses to stay. He won't remain in a hall that tolerates hypocrisy and cruelty. With that, he turns away from the crowd. Still holding Ilsa's hand, they exit together, calm and composed. Inside the royal carriage, silence falls at first. Ludwig stares ahead, struggling to process his impulsive outburst, shouting at a princess and throwing wine in her face. He's stunned by his own actions. Across from him, Ilsa lowers her head, blaming herself. But before she can finish, Ludwig gently cuts in, insisting there's nothing to apologize for. If anyone should be sorry, it's him, for failing to protect her sooner. Her eyes widen in disbelief. Without hesitation, she clasps his shoulders, voice trembling, and tells him he did nothing wrong. He stood up for her, risking his future and reputation to defend her dignity. That moment settles between them, warm and sincere. Both realize they've been trying to apologize for something that needs no forgiveness. Ludwig breaks the silence with a soft laugh, grateful beyond words. He thanks Ilsa from the bottom of his heart. For defending him, for standing beside him, even against someone as powerful as Princess Sophie. Ilsa, unable to hold back the emotion welling up inside, lowers her gaze, eyes nested with tears. She quietly thanks him for showing her such caring concern, so openly and without hesitation. Though the carriage moves forward, something deeper has shifted between them. They now look to each other not just with respect, but with trust, choosing to rely on one another moving forward. Later that night, Ludwig lies sprawled across his bed back at the royal mansion, staring at the ceiling in silent disbelief. His mind replays the events of the evening, confronting a princess, tossing a drink in her face, storming out of the ball. He sighs heavily, realizing how far he's deviated from the calculated path he intended to follow. He wanted to win over the heroines, break the Dune flags, and avoid the Empire's downfall. But after tonight's chaos, it feels almost impossible. Still, he clings to one quiet truth. He didn't betray himself, and that, somehow, offers a strange sense of comfort. Although Ludwig doesn't regret his actions, he feels disheartened. He knows that, after tonight, none of the heroines will likely ever believe that he's anything other than the hideous orc he was once labeled. Sitting up in bed, he sighs, thinking that things with Sophia, one of the main heroines, were never going to work out anyway. Holding his head, he briefly considers letting the story spiral toward a doomed ending, but quickly shakes off the thought, irritated. Each heroine has her own complications, and he can't handle them all at once. Overwhelmed by the endless possibilities, frustration and anxiety build until he buries his face in his hands, settling on one goal: survive first. Suddenly, a knock sounds at the door. Surprised someone would visit this late, he opens it, and is left speechless. Yahello stands there in a bold, elegant outfit, flustered but composed. She quietly apologizes for disturbing him at such an hour, and asks if she may come in. Embarrassed, Ludwig quickly lets her in, but he's stunned when she immediately wraps her arms around him from behind. This sudden motion causes both of them to tumble onto the bed. Blushing, she explains that she came to thank him properly for standing up for her during the party. As Ludwig tries to brush it off, she hugs him tighter and says this is the only way she can express her thanks. He's left frozen, unsure how to react. Sensing his hesitation, she nervously asks if he's upset. Seeing her trembling, Ludwig blushes harder and awkwardly realizes that she's never experienced something like this before. Gently pulling off his nightcoat, he covers her with it and advises her. With a soft but serious voice, not to do this so easily, not even for him, she replies sadly that she has nothing else to give him. Ludwig steps closer, looking into her eyes, and tells her she should save herself for someone she truly loves. Her eyes grow misty as she listens in silence. Later, while she sits quietly on his bed, she shyly asks if she can at least stay beside him tonight. Though unsure, he agrees, telling her she can sleep on the bed while he takes the sofa. But Ilsa quickly stops him, grabbing his hand and jumping on top of him with a flushed face. She insists that he stays on the bed, and she'll sleep beside him. As he panics inside, struggling to keep calm, she sweetly adds, her cheeks glowing red, that this is her first time sleeping next to a man. That night, Ludwig does everything he can to stay innocent and respectful, even as his heart pounds beside her. Though he secretly loves sleeping beside Ilsa, he plans to rise early. However, he's surprised when Ilsa wakes first, cheerfully greeting him good morning. When she admits she was so happy she couldn't sleep all night, he grows nervous, wondering if she watched him the entire time. She hugs him again with delight, and though flustered, he gently asks her to stand so he can start his routine. As he turns to leave, she politely calls him back, insisting he should rest properly and not leave so suddenly. Later, while walking outside, Ludwig feels surprisingly energetic despite the lack of sleep. Though he's already lost weight, he's determined to keep training, haunted by the thought that if he regains his old physique, even kind-hearted Ilsa might turn away from him. Just as he begins his training, he's shocked to see Princess Ophelia already practicing nearby. He immediately bows, apologizing for the interruption. She dismisses the concern and instead asks how he knows her name. Smiling nervously, Ludwig explains she's his classmate and a royal from the Bryn United Kingdom. When his tone suggests he's been keeping tabs on her, she only smiles, which eases his anxiety. She changes the topic, asking why he's out so early. When he mentions he's about to start his routine, she excitedly offers to watch. Ludwig hesitates, saying there's nothing worth seeing, and reminding her that she too was training. He's left speechless when she casually swings her bag over her shoulder and declares she's taking a break. Still puzzled by her sudden interest in him, Ludwig begins his wall-scaling exercises. After 30 minutes, he returns, surprised to see her still watching attentively. When she asks if he always uses such intense training methods, he recalls how Ilsa once forced him into it. Hearing Ophelia comment that he seems very different from the rumors, Ludwig feels a surge of anger, clearly blaming Sophie for spreading lies. Then Ophelia surprises him again, saying she still knows little about him and would like to learn more. But before either of them can continue, Ilsa appears behind Ludwig with an icy stare. He instantly panics, remembering a hidden game condition. If Ilsa's affection reaches 200%, while another princess holds 100% loyalty, it triggers an assassination ending. Though the game never revealed who the killer was, her deadly glare confirms it for him. He's horrified, realizing he may have accidentally raised Ilsa's affection too far. Ilsa coldly asks what he's doing here. Ophelia, confused, asks if Ilsa is Ludwig's attendant. She bows with a sharp smile and calmly introduces herself, her tone polite, but her aura intense. When Ophelia innocently asks if serving Prince Ludwig makes her feel lucky, Ilsa's expression softens slightly, and she humbly agrees. Ludwig, bewildered by their exchange, watches silently. Ilsa then, still smiling, reminds him of his long-standing bad reputation and notes how, the previous night, he defended his subordinate in front of nobles. She adds that if an attendant had insulted a foreign royal, execution wouldn't have been out of the question. At this, Ludwig is shocked to realize Ophelia had also been present at the ball. He assumes she must think poorly of him now, but she suddenly gives him a cheerful thumbs up, saying it was all very entertaining. Then, claiming she's getting cold, she excuses herself and runs off. Ludwig watches her leave in stunned silence. He had thought her direct and serious, but now she seems the opposite, unpredictable and interested in him. Before he can dwell further, Ilsa, still cold-faced, orders him to resume training. Her voice sharpens as she demands he follow her instructions exactly. Worried by her intensity, Ludwig feels like he'll die from stress before any actual assassination. As he walks ahead, she abruptly stops him, comes close, and adjusts his stance. The sweet scent of her breath stuns him. He quickly steps back and thanks her. Then, side by side, the two enter the classroom in composed silence. As Ludwig and Ilsa enter the classroom together, Princess Natalia teases them with a smile, asking when they became so close. Her sudden appearance irritates Ludwig, and he grows even more anxious seeing her knight, Batista, glaring at him. Meanwhile, Marco is off chatting with other girls. Before Ludwig can respond, Princess Ophelia approaches and casually tells Natalia that she and Ludwig trained together that morning. Ludwig forces a smile, clarifying it was only by coincidence. However, he grows tense again when Ilsa's eyes turn cold, clearly displeased. Natalia simply laughs and says she'd love to join them sometime, but dedicates her mornings to praying to Lady Minerva. Ludwig, however, knows she worships for entirely different reasons. Ophelia lightly remarks that Natalia doesn't look like someone who practices combat. Natalia, smirking, retorts that Lady Minerva is not just the goddess of prosperity, but also of war, and proudly declares her own expertise with a combat rod. Seeing both of these unpredictable princesses in one place annoys Ludwig. He finds it frustrating to have the two most troublesome nobles in his class. Their exchange is cut short when the homeroom teacher arrives and tells everyone to take their seats. As Ludwig sits, he finally feels a moment of peace until Ilsa, still glaring, orders him not to train in the courtyard tomorrow. When he hesitates, she raises her voice and reminds him she's his superior. He obediently agrees, inwardly terrified that the story might reach its bad ending before it even starts. That night, Ludwig trains seriously with his jewel swords. Ilsa had personally modified the blades to be 5 times heavier than normal, so his body is already used to the weight. After completing nearly 100 swings, he gains confidence, remembering how difficult it was to train under Ilsa for a full year. Just as he switches the sword to his right hand, Princess Ophelia suddenly appears, startling him with her loud praise. Shocked by her unexpected arrival at the dormitory's backyard at night, he asks what she's doing there. Smiling, she says it's her usual spot for night training, but adds, with a faint blush, that she somehow felt she'd find him here. Ludwig panics, fearing Ilsa would kill him if she found out. To his surprise, Ophelia wastes no time correcting his grip on the sword. Hubbing him from behind, she gently guides his hands. He's too flustered to focus, and when she notices his distraction, she asks if he's even listening. Ludwig feels helpless. He's never had a real relationship, and suddenly all these noble girls are paying attention to him. His anxiety worsens when Ophelia bluntly asks if he has a girlfriend. Trying to distract himself, he thinks about how he always sneaks a snack after lights out and how he keeps it secret from Ilsa to avoid worrying her. When he doesn't respond, Ophelia just laughs and changes the subject, suggesting they sparred together since they're already training. He quickly apologizes, saying he's no expert, but Ophelia still seems impressed with his efforts. When he insists he's not particularly skilled, she pouts cutely, clearly trying to make him reconsider, but he doesn't budge. She grows even more interested, not in his looks, but in his sincerity and dedication. She softly admits he's not like the hideous orc the rumors describe. Hearing this, Ludwig recalls a memory of a battle where Ophelia, then an enemy commander, was captured. She boldly declared that although they lost, they had fought with pride, and she had no regrets. He quietly admires her strength, both on the battlefield and in person. Ophelia then asks if he'd like to test his skills in some other way if he won't spar. When he asks if she just said something, she casually brushes it off with a smile. Changing the subject, she suggests they simply focus on training for the night. Ludwig agrees. Prince Ludwig and Ilsa stroll through the lively imperial capital. Curious about the bustling stalls, he asks about them, and she happily tells him they serve a famous drink, frappé. Although he's never tried anything like it before, her recommendation excites him, and he decides to give it a try. As he looks around, surprised by the vibrant streets, Ilsa, a bit amused, asks if this is his first time here. He nods, explaining that in the past, due to his health, he wasn't allowed outside, and afterward, he was too busy training with her. Then he asks if she's been here before, and Ilsa cheerfully shares that her family estate is on the city's outskirts. Seeing the huge crowd, Ludwig excitedly asks if there's a festival, noticing the many food stalls. While they walk, Ludwig spots Princess Ophelia speaking with someone. He immediately looks worried and quickly changes direction. When she asks if he's all right, he simply nods and, trying to shift the mood, suggests they grab something to eat. Now seated, Ilsa curiously asks if he plans to duel Princess Ophelia. He quickly denies it with a grin, asking for her help to avoid Ophelia for 2 days. Ilsa gladly agrees. Relieved to have delayed the possibility of assassination, Ludwig relaxes until suddenly Princess Ophelia approaches. With a bold voice and determined gaze, she declares that a sword is the best way to test an opponent. Through battle, she wants to find out whether he's truly a monstrous orc or something else. Just as Princess Ophelia finishes her bold challenge, she turns with a smirk and casually excuses him, this time. Ludwig exhales in relief and waves politely, but she throws a wicked smile over her shoulder, saying she won't disappoint him in the fight next time. Ilsa, clearly a little jealous, grins and teases Ophelia, asking if these kinds of jokes are common in the Bryn United Kingdom. But as the mood turns tense, half joke, half assassination attempt, Ludwig, now alarmed, quickly interrupts. He apologizes and says Princess Ophelia must be too busy to fight today. Ophelia, teasingly, asks if he's also not busy, suggesting he fight her instead. Ludwig immediately tries to excuse himself, saying he has many important tasks after school. She then sweetly asks if he's free tomorrow to fight, and Ludwig panics, smiling awkwardly. Annoyed, Ilsa asks why Ophelia is so stubborn about fighting him. Ludwig, thinking to himself, feels frustrated, convinced that Ophelia is simply battle-crazed. But then Ophelia, suddenly looking sad, asks if he's truly that rude, refusing to fight her. Panicked again, Ludwig quickly denies it, which only excites her more. She clearly wants to battle someone strong, and Ludwig fits that description all too well. As they continue walking, Ludwig grows more annoyed, only to hear another voice call him from behind. It's Princess Natalia, cheeks flushed, approaching with her guards. He groans internally, having just barely escaped Ophelia. He awkwardly turns and forces a smile, pretending to be excited to see her. Natalia, licking her lips nervously, cheerfully invites him to have a drink with her. That makes Ludwig freeze in fear, but Els quickly steps in, saying he's already having a frappé with her. Ludwig eagerly agrees, adding that Els told him the fraps here are excellent. Natalia, still blushing and full of energy, brightly suggests they all drink together, since they're already here. Seeing Natalia's excitement, Els steps in with a playful smile, teasing her for rushing over without a thought for Lord Batista and Sir Marco, who trail behind. Natalia, feigning grace, replies that Lord Minerva would surely be pleased to see the saint of the Holy Church and the crown princess of the Empire forming a strong bond. Then, her tone sharpening, she asks if that isn't Elsa's priority as well. Els, still teasing, counters that Minerva's teachings have little to do with personal ties to Prince Ludwig. Natalia, more resolute now, insists it's her duty to strengthen unity between the Holy Church and the Baldeburg Empire. For the peace of the Western realms, she must remain close to its future ruler. Ludwig, realizing that Natalia is already thinking about the potential for future war between the Empire and Western nations, understands her reasoning, though it unsettles him. Still, with a calm smile, he laughs and says she's overestimating him. He explains that although he is the crown prince, it doesn't guarantee he'll become emperor. Inwardly, Ludwig's expression turns blank. He tells himself he never wants the throne, not if it means becoming part of the same hideous system he despises. He believes there's no future if he ascends, only revenge and ruin. But seeing Ilsa glaring angrily at Natalia and sensing the tension rising, he quickly steps in, loudly suggesting they all enjoy their fraps together instead. Natalia, delighted, eagerly rushes off and orders 3. As they sit down, Ludwig notices a thoughtful, almost troubled look on Ilsa's face. Curious, he asks what's wrong. Ilsa brushes it off with a laugh, saying it's only natural for the future emperor, Prince Ludwig, to form connections with the saint of the Minerva Church. Her words leak and stunned. He wonders if Ilsa only stays by his side to restore the Hildebrandt family, and believes that unless he becomes emperor, her dream will never come true. With a gentle smile, he reassures her not to worry. He quietly promises to restore her family's honor, even if he never takes the throne. In his heart, he decides this is how he will repay her loyalty. Ilsa, looking flustered, lowers her gaze and softly insists, "That's not what this is about." They decide to place their orders. Ludwig receives his frappé, but freezes upon noticing 2 straws in the cup. He stands there, confused, until Ilsa calmly explains that fraps are meant to be shared between 2 people. Still processing the situation, Ludwig becomes visibly flustered. Natalia, noticing, offers her own frappé to Ilsa with enthusiastic cheer. However, Ilsa politely declines, stating that she intends to share with Prince Lua. With cheerful insistence, she urges him to enjoy it while it's still cold. Embarrassed and unsure how to react, Ludwig hesitates. Both of them, their faces slightly red, slowly lean toward the drink. As they move closer, he realizes Ilsa is just as nervous as he is. Their lips near the straws, and they each take a small sip. Instantly, both light up with joy, their expressions bursting into smiles at how delicious it tastes. Natalia watches them with amusement, then offers Ludwig a sip of her drink. He immediately refuses, cheeks flushing deeper. The idea feels too intimate, almost like a kiss. Trying to be polite, he suggests she share it with someone else. Natalia, misreading his intent, assumes he means Batista and points out he already has his own. Before she can continue, a guard approaches to announce it's time to leave. She agrees, offering Ludwig a hopeful smile as she departs, clearly looking forward to seeing him in class. As her entourage leaves, Ludwig reflects briefly on Batista's cold demeanor from their first meeting. He suspects the knight may dislike him. Now, along with Ilsa again, Ludwig glances at her. A soft, content smile forms on his lips. He knows this is duty for Ilsa. But to him, it feels like a date. Ilsa, catching his gaze, lowers her eyes, cheeks flushed, just as flustered as he is. After finishing their frappe as they begin to leave, Ludwig smiles and gently holds Ilsa's hand, thinking it's a natural part of a date. But Ilsa suddenly stops him, then dashes ahead, reminding him that it's time for their nightly training. He watches her run, cheeks flushed, wondering if she too considers this outing a date. Holding her hand a little longer, he shares a quiet hope to revisit the same street next week and enjoy another frappe together. A week passes. After class, Ludwig is utterly exhausted, dozing off from lack of sleep. Ophelia's constant involvement with him has made Ilsa much stricter and colder during their morning training sessions. While they continue their practice, Ludwig notices someone unexpected, Sophia walking beside a man. He instantly recognizes the man as the same one who had spoken with Ophelia the previous week. The realization hits him. This might be the person who spread lies about him. Although Ludwig doesn't want to confront Sophia, he also knows that avoiding her now would only make him appear guilty. He decides to keep walking. But unexpectedly, Sophia passes right by him without a word. The silence leaves him confused. As they continue walking, Ilsa happily suggests they take a lunch break. But as they turn a corner, Ludwig freezes. A large crowd of students blocks the path ahead, their faces filled with hostility. He's startled. He had always suspected he wasn't well-liked. But this open anger shocks him. Ilsa immediately asks for his permission to disperse the crowd by force. But Ludwig quickly stops her. With a hard expression, he raises his voice, asking if they intend to keep him from even eating lunch. The crowd erupts, shouting accusations, calling him a hideous orc unworthy of sitting near them. Ludwig stands still, stunned. These students know nothing about the truth. They've been swayed by lies on social media, blindly hating him. His frustration boils over, and he suddenly blurts out that they're all pathetic. The outburst makes the crowd even more enraged, and fear creeps into him. Ilsa calmly steps forward, her voice steady as she supports him. She declares that hiding in shadows and insulting others from behind safety is far more disgraceful than any rumor. Their words are cut off when Ophelia bursts through the crowd, face twisted in fury, and grabs Ludwig by the collar. She shouts, accusing him of insulting Princess Sophia at the imperial ball. Ludwig is stunned by the claim. He tries to calm her, explaining that he never even met Sophia that night. Ophelia, still furious, insists that Sophia's attendant, Thomas, told her that he had to stop Ludwig from picking a fight. Ludwig quickly pieces the situation together. The man he saw with Sophia earlier is likely the same person who met with Ophelia to fabricate this lie. He tries to explain again loudly that he doesn't even know the man's name. Ophelia remains firm, claiming she once believed he was better than the rumors. Ludwig interrupts, swearing that he was with Ilsa the entire night. But as the crowd shifts its angry attention to Ilsa, they begin to suspect she's part of his supposed deception. Realizing the situation is spiraling, Ludwig clarifies that they were only dancing, nothing more. Still, Sophia steps forward, seething with anger, and demands a duel with swords to judge whether he truly is innocent. Ludwig panics, admitting he is not skilled in formal dueling. Sophia, unfazed, permits Ilsa to assist if he begins to lose. She then adds a cruel condition. If he refuses to fight, he must admit guilt, and declares that Ilsa is nothing more than his hideous orc's plaything. The insult cuts deep. Ludwig, keeping Ilsa behind him protectively, feels a sharp anger rise within. He accepts the challenge, but only under the condition that if Sophia loses, she must publicly apologize to Ilsa for the humiliation. As Ludwig, burning with anger, accepts the challenge, Ophelia grins with satisfaction. With a calculating smile, she suggests they settle the fight on the Academy's training grounds after class. When the final bell rings, Ludwig walks toward the arena, chuckling softly. It's finally time to unsheathe the custom-forged blades he had made using every privilege afforded to him as the crown prince. With a confident smirk, he draws his twin swords, his personal weapons, feeling the weight of resolve settle in his grip. Ilsa, however, watches with growing concern. She gently tells him he didn't have to accept such a dangerous duel. But Ludwig, placing a finger lightly against her lips, silences her. This is not just about the fight. It's to prove her innocence. And beyond that, he wants to defeat Ophelia. He assures her, with deep determination, that they will win together. Before the match begins, he pulls Ilsa aside to discuss something in private. A few minutes later, they arrive at the training ground. The crowd is already thick, and the excitement is palpable. Ludwig is shocked to realize that nearly the entire academy has shown up, most hoping to see him lose to Ophelia. The air is heavy with anticipation. Noticing the twin swords in his hands, Ophelia smirks teasingly. She remembers those blades well from their childhood sparring days. Her expression sharpens with excitement. While Ludwig is visibly nervous, she draws her heavy sword with a flourish, radiating energy and confidence, and signals for the match to begin. Ilsa quietly urges him not to fight too recklessly. As the fight starts, Ludwig, steeling himself, shouts for Ophelia to come at him, holding his twin swords in a defensive stance. She charges without hesitation, her sword gleaming with surging energy. Her first strike crashes into him with incredible force, and though he manages to shield himself, the impact sends him stumbling several meters back. The crowd gasps. Ophelia, surprised and amused, laughs at his ability to withstand her full-powered blow. On the outside, Ludwig forces a smile, but inside, fear grips him. Her strength is overwhelming. His spine feels cold, and his hands go numb from the sheer shock of her attack. Before he can recover, she lunges again, her eyes gleaming with madness, delivering another fierce strike with a wicked smile that chills him to the bone. Ludwig stands stunned, watching how effortlessly Ophelia swings her massive sword as if it were a light branch. Her strikes carry the weight of a steel hammer smashing into solid rock, and he struggles to block each one. Every blow shakes his body, making him wonder if she trained under some brutal regime where slamming herself into the ground was routine. Ophelia laughs confidently, believing the fight will end quickly. But as she continues attacking, she notices Ludwig still standing, still defending. She's impressed. This isn't over yet, and she's genuinely enjoying the challenge. Ludwig rests his swords on his shoulders and forces a cocky smile. He charges at her, teasing whether these are the only attacks she has, claiming he's still full of energy. In truth, his entire body screams in pain. He's barely holding on. Motivated by his bravado, Ophelia smirks and prepares her ultimate attack, a powerful move that can cut through anything. She sprints forward, launches herself into the air, and spins with incredible speed, her sword carving through the wind. Ludwig braces himself, barely managing to block, realizing this must be the move she uses to knock back even the strongest enemies. It's devastating, but he also knows it leaves her unable to act for the next two exchanges. At that exact moment, as Ophelia lands and briefly falters, Els suddenly charges in from the side. With perfect timing, she delivers a flying kick that knocks Ophelia off balance. Shock ripples through the crowd. The fight between the two girls begins. Ophelia attacks with fury, but Els swiftly blocks her strikes. Within moments, Els takes control, locking Ophelia's neck between her legs and bringing her to the ground. Seated firmly, she declares victory. Meanwhile, Ludwig lies on the ground, groaning from the pain. Just then, Princess Natalia arrives. Without a word, she kneels beside him and uses her advanced healing magic. A golden glow surrounds him, and the pain fades almost instantly. He slowly sits up, surprised to see her, and stares at her in disbelief. Natalia smiles gently and asks if he's all right. Still shocked, Ludwig asks why she helped him. She replies with a smile that she just happened to be passing by. He gratefully thanks her, and she warmly welcomes him back to his feet, then quickly directs his attention to the other side of the field. There, Els, filled with rage, straddles Ophelia and raises a knife, her expression deadly serious. Ludwig's eyes widen in horror, and he immediately shouts her name, commanding her to stop. Hearing his voice, Els freezes. She drops the blade, scrambles off Ophelia, and runs to Ludwig's side. Her face is filled with concern as she comes close and asks if he's truly all right. He nods, saying Natalia already healed him. Ophelia, still recovering, glares at them and shouts in frustration, demanding whether this was all part of his plan. Ludwig's expression turns cold. He thinks bitterly that if he had recklessly attacked her head-on, she would have struck him down instantly. There would have been no fight at all. Els calmly reminds Ophelia of her own words, that Els was allowed to step in if Ludwig was losing confidence. He then proudly explains to the crowd that everything happened as planned. Els struck at the perfect moment. Els, taken aback, asks if he really orchestrated it all. He smiles and admits that he was doing his best to endure and defend the entire time. But the crowd is not pleased. Anger boils over as students shout that it wasn't a fair duel. They accuse Ludwig, the so-called hideous orc, of of cheating and using his attendant to win. The jeers grow louder, demanding that he leave the academy. Here I stand. I know I walked away. I had to find the person I had become.